wasn't that long ago that the Crocs thrashed the Pirates by 25 points, but their coach Ian Stacker isn't expecting a repeat opportunity tonight in Newcastle.
There's different chemistry factors associated with both teams now, so it would be for us to drop this game would really jeopardise our season because it's one that we definitely should win.
Those chemistry factors centre around two players. Ruben Nemhard has just joined the Crocodiles, while Alan McCowan will be making his second appearance for the Pirates. But there's a lot riding on this game for Townsville. A win would see the team stay in playoff contention. And one player that's keeping that dream alive is the Central Coast Greg Vanderjack. The 200cm tall 19-year-old from Gosford scored 12 points the last time these two teams met and is looking for more of the same on what's almost a home court. The match is also important for Pirates top scorer Geordie Cullen. The centre is lining up for his 100th NBL appearance and hopes to celebrate the milestone with a win. Cullen Robinson, NBN News. It's been a busy and at times controversial term of stewardship for Professor Catherine McGrath. She's presided over the region's health system in an era of massive change, and among her highlights was the preparation for the Newcastle strategy.
We worked with the community and they actually made the decision that this was a good deal for the hunter, and therefore they were prepared to support it even though it included major change like the closure of the Royal. So I think that for me was a real highlight.
While a food poisoning incident which saw 5 people die, 3 from a contaminated fruit salad, was a hard lesson learned. Professor McGrath will finish her tenure as CEO in March, possibly before one of her most controversial plans reaches fruition. She's tried to sell the idea of a public-private partnership for the redevelopment of the Mater Hospital, and so far one key player, the union, haven't taken to the pitch. Cullen Robinson, NBN News. Haven't taken to the pitch. The Hunter Health Board is expected to advertise for her replacement nationally, with the position offered for an initial period of 2 years. Colin Robinson, NBN News.
Carved into the rolling surrounds of Black Hill, especially for this event, it's the first time mountain cross of this quality has raced in the region, and it drew a diverse range of champions, with multiple Australian BMX title holder and Olympic hopeful Luke Medill showing he's at home on this type of bike as well. While reigning World Cup downhill champion Nathan Rennie was using today to clear out the cobwebs before gearing up for a title defence.
I suppose people always expect different things from the World Cup champion, but I'm just here to have a bit of fun.
He started today with the fastest individual time to be the quickest qualifier. But you didn't have to look far to see that this sport really can be as easy as falling off a bike. More nasty than nice for Shane Pearce, the funny thing was things only got tougher when it became man-on-man racing. Caelan Young proving he's no mug when it comes to finding the hidden line. It became a fine line to find the right line. But the class rode to the top in this elimination style event, and by the end of the day, little could separate the top bikes.
There were 43 ships at anchor off Newcastle today, most of them waiting to access the port's coal loading facilities. The ship queue is so large because the rail system simply can't get enough coal to the port fast enough. In a bid to speed things up, Pacific National has asked the Rail Infrastructure Corporation for permission to run its trains at a faster speed. The biggest wagons in the fleet are currently limited to 60 kilometres an hour, but Pacific National wants to run its 120-tonne wagons at 80 k's an hour. It's waiting for the go-ahead for a trial while the state government carries out a risk assessment study. Meantime, Pacific National is upgrading its grain wagons. These ones may be 45 years old and extensively decorated, but they've been fitted with a brand new lid opening mechanism that runs on compressed air.
And this will make the wagons much more efficient and will negate the need for people to have to get up on top of wagons to manually open lids, which was the practice in the past.
Varley Engineering at Carrington will fit over 500 wagons with the new lids in a contract worth $15 million. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
You got that sinking feeling today that Newcastle United's playoff chances had gone down the drain, even though it's still mathematically possible to make the six.
The worst thing for me now is that we need probably 2 or 3 sides to muck up.
Sydney came out firing and had all the running during the first half last night. The first coming off the boot of Brendan Santalab. Liam Austin snuck one past United's defence before the break, and the game was as good as gone.
There's disappointment in terms of we've lost and that, but I don't feel hard done by.
The hits keep coming though. Besides falling to 9th on the ladder, Greg Owens injured his knee on match day eve and will be out for some weeks. Ryan Griffiths, though, is still floating. His well-timed strike for the Olyroos on Friday night in New Zealand booked the national under-23 side a spot to the Athens Olympics.
Yeah, the celebrations afterwards were amazing. Everyone was on the biggest high.
It was his second but most important goal for his country, but does not guarantee him a trip to Greece later this year, with 3 overage players able to be included in the side by coach Frank Farina. However,
Regarding everything goes well, injury-wise and everything, I think that I should have a good chance to be in there.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Over recent years, the draft local environment plan has attracted its share of criticism from developers and landowners who oppose the rezonings. It's been approved by city councillors, but now it seems another battle is underway to get final consent from the state government. The plan was submitted for approval in November 2002, and council thought it would take 6 months.
You know, suddenly to find it's taken 15 months and we're no closer really is a little bit. I really am angry about the whole process.
Meanwhile, at last night's meeting, council rejected an application for a 53-lot North Lake subdivision at Cameron Park. The mayor says the blocks would have been too small and too close to transmission lines.
Well, I get a little bit angry where developers come in and try and make maximum profit on the land and then leave future generations with very poor planning.
And council has also decided to purchase this waterfront property at Morisset Park. It's almost 7,000 square metres of land, but comes with a $2 million price tag. The acquisition is part of council's policy to provide public access to the water so it can be enjoyed by future generations. Lyndall Derrick, NBN News.
Tomorrow night's Speedway meeting is to be Todd Wiltshire's farewell ride in the country, and already they're turning up. In a salute to the Speedway veteran, a crack field of homegrown champions have been assembled to ride an all-star race with a difference.
There's a lot of names in there that I've never got to ride against because I was always too young. So I think it should be good fun. I think be pretty good racing.
At home from the 125cc World Circuit, Stoner will join a strong list of hunter-bred champions that includes National Trials title holder Rob Jones, English-based Adam Shields and multiple national champ Chris Watson. In all, the 8-man field will ride the same Suzuki make of bike, making it a battle of skill. It might be a case of boys with their toys, but Stoner does have greater things on his mind, and that's testing with his new World Championship team, KTM.
Yeah, well, the closer we get to the season, the more nervous I'm sort of getting, because I know that we have got a shot at the title this year, and I've just got to work hard enough to do it.
After experiencing all the highs and lows last year, Stoner is refreshed and almost 100% fit as he gears up for a real shot at the crown.
My wrist still isn't perfect, but it's almost back to 100%, so I don't think that'll be a problem going into the season.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
My husband and I, we lost a lovely daughter and we can never replace her.
If only the Maitland Club could attract these same numbers at a training session, their problems would be solved. But despite all the good intentions of last night's meeting, it was conceded the Pickers would have to sit out Newcastle's 2004 competition. But they would seek to enter the Hunter Valley-based Group 21 League with the players they do have.
I expect that's going to be a formality. They want us in up there. We're only going to go in there if our financial viability is guaranteed by the Leagues Club.
That's so the club can retain existing players and juniors, but most importantly, recruit heavily for a return to Newcastle's 2005 season. However, it would mean tripling the current licensed club grant to around $100,000.
If the funding's not there and it's not going to make us viable, it's only prolonging the agony as far as I'm concerned.
They should have the answer on that on Monday night. Central Charlestown has received a major funding boost in the last 48 hours as it searches for more players to fill the required 3 senior teams. No player number problems at the Northern Blues. They're hosting the South Sydney Rabbitohs tomorrow night at Tomaree Oval for trial games, along with the North Sydney Bears. The Blues will combine with the Bears to give the NRL team a hit-out before its traditional Charity Shield clash against the Dragons.
There are 10 facilities like this scattered throughout the Hunter to provide support, accommodation and training for people with disabilities.
Our aim is to make sure they can do more things independently, and so that once they do that, they then can contribute back to the community.
This centre at Warrabrook caters for 7 people, each requiring around-the-clock care. During the day, carers provide activities like barbecues and concerts and even bubble baths.
Recently, the girls have all been to an ABBA concert.
There is also a training centre off-site to assist with lifestyle skills. While this facility has only been opened a short time, they are already keen to expand.
We take it to as many places as we can, and certainly to as many people as we can.
Social justice campaigner Tim Costello was on hand to offer his support for the organisation.
When you see a facility like this, caring for those people who really deserve our support, you feel social justice is again flowing strongly.
Linda Kincaid, NBN News.
The night couldn't have started better for the Pirates. Kevin Brooks on target, while the game's most improved player, Geordie Cullen, was also finding his range. The pity was, so too were several of the New Zealand breakers. Baskets soon became a rarity for the home side as their shooting percentage nosedived, and even when they did drop in, the Kiwis just hit straight back. Peora Winatara was making a habit of it, while Mike Chappell continued his scoring form. Named Player of the Month for January, he hit a team-high 18. But discipline has got the visitors all sorts of headlines of late. Kevin Brooks kept Hunter in touch, but Chappell always had the answer. Iona Enosa will have to come up with some after this gesture earned him a second technical foul and an early end to the game. He already has to front the NBL tribunal on Monday night for a previous incident. No guessing who kept Hunter in it. While successive three-pointers from Peter Barnett actually gave the home side a sniff inside the final quarter. But New Zealand closed it out to win by 11 points.
On paper, I guess in all our cards we're strong, but we just don't manage to win as much as we should. I guess complacency is relying on other people to do their job instead of each other, so we're looking to change that.
It's this picture of health that's putting smiles on faces of wine producers across the region. While bouts of heavy rain last month threw a blanket of uncertainty across the industry, the skies have cleared, making way for what's tipped to be a bumper harvest.
There's been no mould development and it's probably been almost ideal. In fact, the rain's really been a blessing and it's probably added to the quality of the wine.
More than 30,000 tonnes of grapes are expected to be crushed this year. It's a very different story to last year's drought-affected harvest, which was down by almost 50%. Harvest is expected to get into full swing from tonight and, weather willing, should be wrapped up in about 10 days. White drinkers could be in for a real treat, with Verdellos and Semillons shaping up to be of exceptional quality. And while the skies are looking promising right now, wine producers are hoping Mother Nature remains kind for at least another 3 weeks.
Ideally, we'd like to see no rain until probably middle of March, and the red quality should be equally as good as some of the great years.
Colleen West, NBN News.
Bradman Oval has become something special for cricketers of all abilities, but it was a real mixed bag in terms of weather for the country championship final, and it was reflected in the performances. Chasing 274, Steve Mace and fellow opener Joey Price got Newcastle off to a great start before the heavens opened. It forced the groundsmen into action as the storm blew through. The rain cleared, but the run still flowed. Dropping Price was always going to cost, and the opener made sure Southern Zone paid as he moved past 50. You could understand why Newcastle was feeling relaxed, and even when Mace was run out for 68, there was no real concern, especially with Price on target with a 92. But a late collapse saw Newcastle lose 5 for 5, ending their run chase an agonising 13 runs short.
For nearly 3 weeks, this research ship has been blasting powerful explosions of compressed air into the water off Newcastle, recording echoes from below the sea floor. It was hired by a Perth-based company looking for a site to drill for natural gas. But while the Polar Duke reeled in its sensors yesterday for the last time, the crews of 56 game boats who took part in a weekend tournament were wondering why they only reeled in 7 fish between them.
We noticed just a total lack of fish, a total lack of marine life. There were very few dolphins about, very few bait fish in the vicinity of where the seismic testing is being conducted, and really the catch rate in the game tournament of Swansea was just considerably down. I really believe it was probably the worst tournament on record.
Commercial fishermen are closely watching their catch.
That is what the commercial fishermen are very concerned about, and so is the co-op, because once they've gone, who do we chase for any compensation? Do we chase the government? And I think that's pretty hard to get any compensation out of, so I think we're going to be left holding the baby.
Bounty Oil and Gas maintains the seismic testing does not harm sea life, but locals disagree and are fearful of the next stage of the project.
If it's successful, they may indeed elect to put a gas rig off the coast, and then they've got to continually conduct seismic testing while that rig's operational. And look, that's not a good thing.
Newcastle and Perth share a healthy rivalry, but the Glory wouldn't have recognised many of the youth-laden United side. Robbie Middleby has been a rare sight all season, but you got an idea what he's capable of when fit, beating everyone but the bar. It took the old firm for Perth to get the ball rolling after Bobby Despotovski powered his way into the box. Things ended with Damien Morey getting ahead on things to knock it past Tom Willis. A brave save only a minute later from Willis stopped the Glory from doubling its lead. Mitchell Johnson had a strong night for Newcastle, but they had few second-half chances. Perth making sure of it 5 minutes from time with a pinpoint first touch from substitute Adrian Casillas.
We huffed and puffed tonight and probably made it difficult for him, but I think probably Mish hit the nail on the head when he said it was comfortable without being anything spectacular.
I think there's going to be teams that finish in the top 6 that are not as good as the slot.
Over the next 2 months, this group of teenage girls will learn how to surf. It's hoped the skills that they will learn will not only be useful in the water, but also in life. The program is targeting troubled teenagers, but girls who have never been in trouble with police are also involved so they can be role models for their peers. The Lake Macquarie PCYC says the initiative is aimed at reducing crime and at overcoming traditional rivalry between teenagers from Swansea and Gateshead. But there was no animosity evident today.
There was sort of at the start, and then we've all just joined together and become a group.
No, not really. Everyone's just getting along good.
Last year, the program made a dramatic difference to reducing crime and changing the behaviour and attitudes of young people. Boosted by the success, the scheme is running again, this time separately for boys and girls. And while it may have been slow going in the surf today, the girls have already learnt about the basics.
When there's other little people, they say my little niece or something, I can teach her about the rips and everything, make sure that she doesn't get caught and just teach everybody else how to surf.
Lyndall Derrick, NBN News.
What makes cancer so scary is it can strike anyone and without warning. One person all too familiar with the disease is Newcastle City Councillor Barbara Gaudry, who survived leukaemia.
It's fairly terrifying for people when they're confronted with a major illness, a diagnosis of cancer. For the family and for the person with leukaemia, it's pretty devastating, and to not have information makes it so much harder to bear.
But the Cancer Council has set about rectifying that, issuing information packs to doctors, setting up a helpline and a web page with frequently asked questions about cancer on it. There's also information on support services, practical advice on such things as diet and what to expect during treatment.
So to have this kind of information will help people to feel empowered, to not be so frightened, and to be able to approach their situation with much more confidence.
It's then hoped that armed with the information, people will be more positive and better equipped to fight the disease.
If you think positively, it's obviously not a fail-safe guarantee, but it certainly improves one's chances.
Information packs are available at the doctors, while the helpline awareness campaign number is 131120, or the website can be found at www.cancercouncil.com.au/cancer answers. Cullen Robinson, NBN News.
This isn't the welcome to university most would expect, but lazing around the pool is a good way to settle in.
Oh, pretty easily, actually. They're very accommodating, them Australians.
I'm from Tamworth and studying finance at the moment. Yeah.
Looks like you're in the pool at the moment.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
One of 1,000 live-in students, Daniel Hall from Ballina, has a week before lectures begin.
Mum and Dad came up the other day and we moved everything in, didn't take too long, and now I've sort of set up a good little pad for myself.
Like most, he'll not only be studying for his communications degree, but also learning about life.
Dealing with the opposite sex, with alcohol, with freedoms that they didn't have at home perhaps, and so we want them to learn all of those things and adapt to adult life as smoothly as possible.
As part of Orientation Week, a trade fair is showing students all that uni life has to offer, from the philosophy club to underwater hockey.
We've been told that it's the biggest hotel in Newcastle. I haven't checked that, but certainly there's a lot of accommodation and lots of activities associated with that.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
"15-year-old Sean Smith has just begun a journey that may one day see him achieve his lifelong dream of playing for the Sydney Swans. The Hunter Sports High student is one of 24 selected in the Aussie Rules Talented Players squad, following an outstanding performance last year, which included representing his state in a combined high school side. Smith is also eyeing off a berth in the AFL draft, which is considered a pathway into the league and only open to those players who turn 16 this year.
That'd be a very big bonus, yeah. It'd be there's a couple of fellas out there I think eligible enough, so if they keep working out I think they'll get there, yeah.
And who better to lead the way than a man who has a near-perfect coaching record? Steve Bird guided Sydney sides Campbelltown and Balmain through to premiership wins in the 90s. And while coaching senior sides may be quite different, Bird has welcomed the challenge thrown at him by his under-16 contingent.
You've probably got to mellow out a little bit more than you do with the seniors and maybe not scream as much, which is difficult for me. But it's been pretty enjoyable.
Selection trials for a combined Newcastle Central Coast side will be held on March 7, with state selection trials later that month in Sydney. Colleen West, NBN News.
This is possibly the biggest blackbutt tree in Australia. At 13 metres around the trunk, it's fatter than the world-famous Grandis near Bulahdelah, and it's been standing in this paddock at Morisset for around 600 years. But not for much longer. It's about to make way for a housing subdivision.
Well, I can't believe that they'd actually cut down a tree this old. I mean, it's 600 years old. It's probably the largest girth tree in the state, or even Australia. And, that should be enough. They should realise from that.
Nick has been watching the tree grow since he was a toddler. Now Lake Macquarie Council says there's nothing it can do to save it from the developer's axe. Under the threat of legal action, the council has struck a deal to save some of the smaller trees around it.
Unfortunately, we'd lose the very large tree, but it will preserve the other 20, and that will be made known to the court, I believe, this coming Monday.
The tree's death warrant is likely to be signed on Monday in the Land and Environment Court, but Nick will be ready.
Me and probably quite a few others will probably chain themselves around the tree or something to try and stop it. We'll try anything we can.
Paul Lobb, NBN News. It's not something you see every day, but hundreds of motorists had a good look at the spectacle on their way to work. At 7:30, the driver of the tip truck had just refuelled after delivering a load of chook pellets to the Central Coast when he drove down Main Road with the truck's tray up in the air. The 54-year-old wasn't aware of the problem until reaching the Cardiff subway.
Two guys in a four-wheel drive tried to wave him down, bloke down, and I tried, but to no avail, and next minute bang into the bloody bridge.
The truck was just completely up over the top of the bridge, and the front part of the truck was just about probably 50 metres up further, just sheared straight off from the truck.
The accident caused a massive disruption, not only on the roads but also on the rails, with peak-hour trains stopped while the bridge was checked for damage. Rail passengers had to be bussed from Cardiff to Fassifern.
Everything shook, the ground shook, the poles shook when he hit the wires with the tray the first before we went to the bridge, and I just said, holy.
So whether it's driver error or mechanical fault at this stage, we're not quite, investigations are still continuing.
Paul Lobb, NBN News. The ACCC's announcement of court action comes just hours before the second Showman's Guild Maitland Super Show. At the heart of proceedings is the Showman's Guild's fiery response to Newcastle Show's decision to contract out sideshows and show bags. The ACCC alleges the Guild, 2 corporations and 8 individuals engaged in exclusionary conduct that contravenes the Trade Practices Act. Staging the rival 2002 Hunter Valley Super Show at Spears Point attracted the regulator's attention. The showmen claim they're innocent.
Quite simply, we deny those allegations categorically.
Newcastle Show President Robert Saddington has welcomed the action on a dispute which took the century-old event to the brink of financial disaster.
The Battle of Sideshow Alley is now set to go before the federal court in Sydney in 3 weeks' time, just days after the close of this year's Newcastle Show. The ACCC will be seeking fines and legal restraints against the Showman's Guild and individuals involved in the case. The showmen will now vigorously defend themselves in court.
We've only got to get statements from our members that will prove that there was no boycotts or collusion that took place.
Gary Blair, NBN News. This new $4 million Muswellbrook police station on the southern side of town was promised by then Police Minister Michael Costa and was supposed to be built by the end of this year. But the government has thrown out the plans, instead deciding to revamp the crumbling and cramped 130-year-old heritage-listed police buildings in William Street.
It was promised Easter 2 years ago. It was an election promise last March. Construction was to commence last September. And here we are in February after that September being told that it's no longer to be built on that site.
Darren Williams' company was to build the new station and lease it to the police. That plan's been scrapped.
Where's the state government going to pull $4 million from? I'd be curious. We were prepared to invest in this and it would have been a win for the community. I can't see the advantages of going to the old site.
The state government has already earmarked nearly $1 million for the project, but it remains to be seen if the state budget in 3 months' time will bear the $3 to $4 million needed for the new building, which will have to be built around the existing heritage-listed structures.
and someone has to be on the block. First person on the block gets the block. So I've been doing the day shifts.
A visit to a new record storage facility at Thornton, built and operated by the Hunter's 13 councils, brought the local government minister to the region. While the mood was cordial, Tony Kelly wasn't among friends. Hunter councils have a policy of no amalgamations, and with proposals already on the table to carve up Murrurundi Shire and also possibly create a super council from the 5 shires in the Upper Hunter, the minister was keen to try and soothe plenty of jittery nerves.
A lot of councillors think our call for reform in local government is just about boundary changes and amalgamations. It's not. It's all about delivery of services back to the ratepayers, that they get a better bang for their buck, if you like.
On why Murrurundi and Scone councils and their residents will have to travel to Armidale on March 2 to front a public inquiry on merger plans, Tony Kelly was keeping himself at arm's length from the assessment process.
It's up to the Boundaries Commission to decide where they hold their hearings. I've stayed right out of the process with the Boundaries Commission.
Given that a separate public hearing will be needed for the Upper Hunter Super Council proposal, the minister claimed lack of money for his decision to hold 2 inquiries rather than just one on the issue.
We actually asked, we have 4 a year. We stretched that money to get 7, but we've run out of money. So we've just got to wait for the budgetary process, and I've got to bid against the health budget and the transport budget and the police budget and the education budget to try and get that money.
Gary Blair, NBN News. United's second last game of the season drew a crowd of 3,000 to Energy Australia Stadium. Newcastle tried all night to find the back of the net, but every chance went begging. Even when the ball did go in, it was disallowed by referee James Lewis. Play was interrupted when the sprinklers came on, giving Melbourne goalie Martin John a chance to cool down. The Knights' 2 goals came in the second half, and both off the boot of Anthony Pelican. It was a dejected Ian Crook that faced the media after the game.
The first goal was a quality finish, and you need players like Anthony Pelican to change games once you get that goal up.
It hasn't been Newcastle's year, with 8 players undergoing surgery throughout the season, and the club's top scorer Job Wheelhouse has bagged just 4 goals. Newcastle is away to the Wollongong Wolves in the final round of the season next Sunday.
Australia's landforms may have been mapped centuries ago, but when it comes to the neighbouring sea floor, it's a different story. Aboard a research ship, Newcastle University scientists have explored the continental cliff, which is double the height of Mount Kosciuszko. They've also plotted underwater sand movements for the first time in Australia.
And we found that the sand was actually going past Fraser Island and getting to the edge of the continental shelf, and actually cascading over the edge and falling 4,000 metres down to the bottom of the ocean.
The sand also accumulates in thick deposits, such as at Fraser Island, and scientists have made a startling new discovery.
What we found using the detailed mapping techniques is that the Great Barrier Reef actually extended further south than this, probably right underneath Fraser Island, and that the sand coming from the south has covered up that southern part of the Great Barrier Reef.
The current arises from the climatic patterns of the Great Southern Ocean, which directs a southeasterly stream of wind and waves up along the east coast. The research scientists also proved that sand from as far as the Hunter Valley and the Blue Mountains was travelling all the way up along the east coast to as far as Fraser Island. The scientists are also studying Tweed Heads, where 500,000 cubic square metres of sand is being pumped to the northern side of the river's entrance each year to allow the sand flow to continue north.
That's really useful for us because it provides a measure of how much sand over time is moving from New South Wales to Queensland and ends up in Fraser Island where we're studying it, and for that matter how much ends up in the deep ocean.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
The Newcastle branch of the Health Services Union today looked like a war room. Sub-branch executives were meeting to discuss what action the union will take if the state government goes ahead with plans to make the redevelopment of the Mater Hospital a public-private partnership.
Industrial action can't be ruled out. We never discount industrial action. At this stage, our members are responsible. They understand that the issue of patient care is critical in a public hospital system.
It's concerned for the future of its members and job security, but is also worried about the level of care a PPP hospital would provide. Campaigning as an opposition leader in 1993, Bob Carr made one of those statements that often comes back to bite.
There's not much worse you can do to an area than take its public hospital off it. And that's what this government's done.
He was talking about Port Macquarie Base Hospital, which is currently going through a protracted funding crisis, and the union today was only too happy to remind the Premier of one PPP that has its share of critics.
I think it's a height of hypocrisy that Bob Carr says the Port Macquarie model is a failure, and then there's the people in Newcastle should have one.
Cullen Robinson, NBN News.
Not a bad way to shrug off the effects of Saturday's trail match and the long journey home from Mackay, especially when your short game is like this. Getting through the first hit out after shoulder surgery, Matt Gidley was like most others, happy just to see his captain back on deck.
He was a bit nervous, but he did things pretty well, and he hasn't lost much.
It took only 4 minutes for Andrew Johns to score the first try of the game against the Cowboys, boosting everybody's confidence.
Had a terrific 60 minutes or so. Didn't seem to be suffering too many ill effects from his injury. Got through a heap of work and looked pretty comfortable.
In both defence and attack, he revelled, but while John's fitness and form is great news for the club, other performances haven't gone unnoticed by the coach as season kick-off now approaches.
Todd Lowry was very good against the Cowboys, I thought, at the weekend. Michael Linus is doing things pretty well for a young bloke. David Siege, who's come to us from Winter Manly's been quite impressive.
Almost as much as Matt Gidley was with his putter today. Playing with his coach, the centre was right on target with some long bombs of his own on the greens. Jim Callanan, NBN News. A 9-hour bus trip to Cobar isn't exactly the best way to prepare for an opening round of the country championship, but it's how Newcastle Rugby's rep team spent their afternoon and part of this evening.
Let's go, boys.
With the traditional Country Week format dumped in favour of a round-by-round championship this season, Newcastle is also sporting a new-look side.
In a way, we're looking at it as positive because a lot of the opposition sides probably aren't rating us, so that's a good thing for us.
Gone are 4 New South Wales country stars, including Cockatoos captain Darren Demick, along with Wanderers pair Graham Thompson and Anthony Barrett, who's now playing in Sydney. But there's still a solid look, with Jewel Anderson medal winner Lolo Mohu heading a powerful-looking forward pack.
Stark contrast to last year where we had experienced backs and kind of inexperienced forwards, and we've seen the reverse this year.
It's also a switch for Jonathan Wilson, who's returned from a stint in rugby league, which will only bolster depth in the backs. His comeback, though, will start from the bench.
We've made it quite clear that this first side we're taking away is not entrenched, for the whole tournament.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Port Waratah Coal Services is now allowed to limit the size of shipments from each mine in a bid to speed up the loading of ships. While some small mines oppose the plan, ACCC Chairman Graham Samuel says they were unable to provide persuasive reasons why they would be disadvantaged by a reduction in export shipments.